Lena was exhausted. It was well past midnight, and all she wanted was to crawl into bed. Just as she turned off the lights and settled under her blanket, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. Unknown number. The message read, "Are you alone?" Lena frowned. She assumed it was a prank and didn't reply. She turned over, closing her eyes, when the phone buzzed again. "I'm almost there." This time a chill ran through her. She sat up, staring at the message. Her heart pounded, and she quickly typed back, "Who is this?" There was no response. She set the phone down, but as soon as she did, the doorbell rang. Her breath caught. No one ever came by this late, and she hadn't heard anyone approach. She walked slowly to the door, pressing her eye to the peephole. No one was there. Just as she let out a sigh of relief, her phone buzzed once more. She glanced down and froze. "I can see you." Lena's blood ran cold. She backed away from the door, eyes darting around the room. She grabbed her phone and called her best friend Tara. After a few rings, Tara picked up. "Tara, someone's messing with me. I keep getting these texts and I..." But Tara's voice was calm, almost detached. "Are you sure you're alone, Lena?" Lena's stomach dropped. "What? Tara, what's going on?" There was a long pause, and then from the other side of the line, Lena heard her own voice. Soft, familiar, but chilling. "I'm already inside." The call cut off, leaving Lena in total silence. Then slowly she heard a soft creak behind her. Heart pounding, Lena turned around slowly, the darkness of her apartment seeming to close in. Shadows stretched across the walls, twisting in the dim light, and she strained her ears to listen for another sound, anything to give her a clue about where the creak had come from. But all she could hear was her own ragged breathing. Then her phone buzzed again. She looked down, hands trembling, and read the new message. "I'm right behind you." She froze. Every nerve in her body screamed at her to run, but fear rooted her to the spot. With every ounce of courage she could summon, she turned slowly. The room was empty. She took a shaky breath, trying to steady herself. "It's just a prank," she whispered to herself. "Just a bad dream. I'm alone, Suddenly she felt a cold breath on her neck. Panicked, she whipped around, only to be met with an empty room once again. She staggered back, nearly tripping over herself as she fumbled for her phone. She needed help, any help. She dialed 911, her fingers trembling so hard that she could barely press the numbers. The call connected, and a calm voice answered on the other end. 911, what is your emergency? Relief washed over her as she choked out the words, "Please, someone's in my apartment. They're threatening me." There was a pause, and then the operator spoke again in a familiar, cold voice. "I know, Lena. I'm already here." The line went dead. She dropped the phone in horror, backing away until her back hit the wall. Suddenly her bedroom door creaked open slowly, inch by inch, revealing nothing but darkness on the other side. A shape emerged from the shadows. She could barely make it out, a faint outline of a figure mirroring her own height, her own posture. It stepped forward, and as it moved into the faint light, Lena gasped. It was her. An exact replica of herself, down to every freckle and strand of hair, stood just a few feet away, staring at her with a twisted smile. Lena's mind spun as she tried to make sense of it, but before she could even scream, the doppelganger raised a finger to its lips, as if shushing her. "Don't worry," it whispered in her own voice. "You don't need to be afraid anymore. I'll take it from here." And then everything went black. When Lena's neighbors found her the next morning, she was sitting calmly on her couch, staring into the distance, her eyes blank and lifeless. She smiled politely when they asked if she was okay, and replied in a voice that sounded just like hers, but somehow wasn't. She never spoke of the incident, never looked at her phone again, but sometimes, in the dead of night, her neighbors would hear her talking to herself in her apartment, holding a conversation, as if someone else was there with her, and she would laugh, like she was no longer alone.